Hey, so this is Alfred Williams with a brother's voice, where we try to increase the depth, not the volume. So we're talking about a developmental stage that happens when 40 to 60 years old, which Erickson uh, depicts it as generativity versus stagnation. Generativity versus stagnation. And the thing about it is, during this age, you you're at a point where you're 40 to 60, you're working with your career, you're working, hopefully you have family or loved ones that you're living, you're working with, and you're a part of their lives, and you're a part of your a community. And that's a big part. So generativity speaks on a person that reaches a certain age. And of course, this is about brothers, and this is for brothers to help brothers to just recognize their voice. This is a time where you recognize, hey, I'm in my career, I'm doing well, or I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. What do I need to do to help fulfill my life? What do I need to do to help pass on? And generativity is one of those things where you give back to your community. You give into your community. You give into someone that comes after you. You're helping your families. You're helping people that may be older than you, but may need the additional help because maybe they're not as strong or whatever it may be. So generativity is a big part and is a major developmental, that's a positive developmental trait for a person in this age group, and these are the people that you see that's out there mentoring, maybe they're coaching, little league football, basketball, whatever it may be. They may be volunteering to help in the nursing homes, help homeless, whatever it may be. You're giving of your talents. One of the things that strikes me as so powerful, because in speaking the truth and speaking what I've seen, that's not a big part of what I've seen as far as what African American men that we need to really try to improve on. We need to start looking at giving back. You know, I've seen it so many times. I've seen it in the church. I've seen it where, a person might have a position, might have it for years, but they don't open the door for people coming in after them, younger people, tutelage, mentorship, helping them. They're used to that attention. They're used to that prestige or whatever you want to call it, and they stay on that. But that's not good. That's not generativity. That's not giving back. That's not helping your community. That's not being an asset. We as African American men we see there's a need. We're looking at it right now. There's a disproportionately large number of female ran households. And we need to have a stronger influence on what men are, what a man stands for, how a man thinks. And now it's so strange now to me that the things I was taught when I was in the military, by my father, by my uncles, by men that was in my life that played strong influences in my life, would be considered toxic now. Now, the flip side of it, what they're promoting now as men will be considered weak. And I ain't talking about nobody, because we're not talking about maleisms either. We're not talking about I'll pull this gun out and bust a cap in your behind. We ain't talking about none of that. We're talking about men that will stand up, say what they felt, stood on their words, stood on their standards of what they considered honor, what they considered as a man. That's not seen today as much. And it's almost shunned upon in some ways, as far as they call it toxic masculinity. Well, honestly speaking, that's just the way men were then. And now those were the characteristics of being a leader. I get in this discussion a few times where they'll talk about something that occurred in a public, say church, open arena where it's a discussion, and the lady would take the forefront, which is fine. The wife would take the forefront and she'll speak up. And then when someone will come to confront her, she would look for her husband to say something. And they say, well, he didn't say anything, or he didn't come. Well, he's never been in that capacity. He's never been in that capacity as a leader. So how would you expect him to come up now all of a sudden because you're offended or you stepped into a situation where you're with someone that's confronting you and you're uncomfortable about it? allow him to be the man he was supposed to be. That's what it was about when I was growing up. And I used to hear that term a lot of times, and people around my age may know what I'm talking about. A man gonna be a man. Yeah, I understood in depth what that meant. And that's not always a good sign, because all things being a man isn't considered good. But with that said, there were some traits that we need to honor and respect. A man being a stand-up type of guy, a man adding rigidity to a household, a man adding rigidity to his community. Well, what does that mean, Al? That means if you see something happening that you know isn't right, being man enough to confront it and adjust to that and make sure that's not done in your household. I remember I was talking to a gentleman, real cool gentleman, and he was talking about not being able to do what he needed to do, not being financially able to do what he needed to do. And I was big on this. Well, do what you can until you could do better. But I'm a big proponent on your ability to be available. Your availability. You can't, okay, you don't have the money to give to the mother of your children to help them raise the children at this time. But your presence being there can ward off a lot of trouble. There's a lot of predators that's looking, and they're looking for weakness. So if they see you there available, there regardless, that's going to ward off a lot of people that may or may not have good intentions for your children, your family. So availability, you may not have the money, but that's not taken away from what you can be and what you can give. But let's get a little bit back to generativity. There's too many opportunities for us as men to give back. You may be a carpenter. You could take the time to have a skills lesson where you could teach young men how to do simple carpentry things, skills that could help them. And I'm big on this. Because if I ain't learned nothing, I learned this in life. The more confidence you have as a man in your skills, what you can do, the better you're more suited and the better you are able to stand out there and go out with your chest out feeling good about yourself. That's important. We want to instill confidence. I talk to too many young men, 24, 25, and don't have any skill. And I'm not saying that they're not intelligent. I'm definitely not saying that, but don't have any skill. Every man needs something to hang his hat on and say, this is what I am, this is what I do, this is what I believe in. Without that, what do they have? So it's important to be able to, for men my age and older, and some a little younger, be able to give back in whatever way you can, being a principal, being in there. And what I mean by principal, being a person that's in there that can talk to young men, talk to them about where they're at. We need to do that. And we need to be willing to make the hard line, even when it's church, when you sit down and have men that's supposed to be pastoralship and all that, be able to sit down and say, hey, that ain't right. I'm standing on that. I went to a church. I wasn't going there for the purpose of church, but they had some kind of theater thing for my son that he might have been interested in participating in. And I seen a man who was supposed to be in church. He was supposed to be the associate pastor. But before that, I remember walking in and I didn't know where I was going, and my son didn't, so he was following me. So we walked in. I'm looking for the directions on this person that was over this group. And I must have forgot to speak to this lady. It was an older lady, older black lady. And I could hear her say, see there? I don't blame the child, I blame the father. I didn't even address that because I understand that spirit, I understand where that spirit is coming from. So I left that alone. But later, the person that was over, or partially over that church, came in front of me with a symbol on. I said, do you know what that symbol is? Now, it's supposed to be a Christian church, and he had a demonic symbol on him wearing it as a necklace. Yeah, I know this was around before Christianity. And Herb got the heck away from it because I really wanted to confront him on that issue. And I told my son, and he probably didn't understand at that time because he was still a little young. I said, now see, that's the problem. You have people that want to run stuff. Now, something people should be confronting, they don't do it. Because if I'm going to a Christian church and I hear somebody walking around with a demonic symbol, that's identified as a demonic symbol. And I'm not going to get so deep into that right now because I could talk a long time on it. But they're presenting themselves as a Christian pastor. Somebody need to address that. I know if my wife went to a church and she had and I talked to the pastor and I see he have a demonic symbol. First thing I'm saying, hey, why you going there? Why we shouldn't be going there? But I should be leading. I'm going to be leading anyway. But that's a problem. But getting back to what I'm saying is, we need more men in that position of generativity. We need more men in a position to be able to stand up and say, hey, that ain't right. This ain't where we're going. We need more men to teach younger men how to be men. And much love to the single mothers that's really trying out there doing it right. We need that because you can't teach a man how to be a man. Just like I've been a nurse for over 27 years. I may know the steps of what goes on when a woman's getting pregnant and her pregnancy and all that, but I couldn't tell you what it felt like to carry a child. That's asking a bit much. That's a woman thing. I'm talking about a man thing. And you ain't walking around, and I'm gonna keep this as clean as possible. But if you ain't walking around with a male genitalia from ages of 13 up to whatever, you don't understand what in the world you're talking about when it comes to be a man. You don't understand the emotion, you don't understand the feelings, all those things, the drive, all those things. So we need more men that's going to stand in the cut. And we need also the availability to be able to talk to younger men too, especially when they're at a time of talking to, you can't talk to them when they 20 years old unless they allow you to, they are open to you and receptive to you. But anyway, let me get on back because I ran off on a tangent. So that's generativity, giving back to your community, giving back to your family, giving back to your loved ones. Without generativity, person could run into stagnation where they're not moving forward. They're focusing on just themselves, maybe regret, things like this. This is when a person many times can identify themselves as going through a midlife crisis. Now, that doesn't mean that they're going to be there for a long period of time, but stagnation, and many times they're not progressing the way they should. They're not finding things that they need to be doing in this developmental stage that's adequate and that's going to enhance them. For development, let's just say a midlife crisis, this is the age 40s to 60s. Those are the times where you do a lot of reflecting. And for some people, they go through a lot of regret. They go through a regret for missing their youth, desiring the things that they didn't have, that they thought they should have had. All those different things can occur. And this could cause you to stagnate. This could cause you to go through a midlife crisis where you're acting out. You're seeing, like they always used to say, he's going through a midlife crisis. Why? He got a Corvette. He's 6 years old. I don't know. Maybe he wanted a Corvette. But if he's doing that to recapture his youth, that's a problem. If you're doing things, because we all have to get to a point where we could progress to a point where we're comfortable where we at our age and our developmental cycle. Okay. So stagnation, I could go into depth with that one because many of us, and I have people that I know that never got out of the 30 age range. And I don't even talk about chronologically as far as numbers, but I'm talking about mentality. And it don't suit well when you reach a certain age. It don't suit well. It don't suit you as a person well. It don't suit your community well, because if you can't give back to your community, to your family, and be an asset instead of a liability, then that's a problem. So that's the major, generativity versus stagnation. And like I said, one of the things we want to focus on, if you able to give, willing to give, is mentoring people, teaching people things. You may say, well, all I know is this. Well, whatever you know, if you could share with someone, you can enhance a younger person's life. You can share with a person your age. You may be able to enhance someone's life and build them and build their confidence and make them a better person. Sharing, giving. And as you give, one of the best therapies you can have for yourself is giving. When I'm down, I'm going to do something for someone else because that's therapy for me. So as we get to a certain age where all the fun, all those things, the excitement and things are kind of dwindling, we need to find things that's going to bring satisfaction to our lives. I do believe in, as a Christian, keeping your mindset on God, keeping your mind on Jesus, following that path, having your blessed hope. But also, as long as you're here, you're supposed to give. Make the most out of those 10 talents that you were given, 5 talents, or however many you were given. Make the most out of it. And I'm sure that you'll find that life will be much more rewarding, because it's not always the financial things that you receive. It's this, hey, Al, Mr. Al, I remember you helped me out with this. I remember working with this. I really appreciate that. I appreciate the part you played. That is so rewarding for me to hear and when people come and tell me thank you for that, or if I could see someone that took time out with me and telling them thank you, that's a wonderful feeling. So this is 40 to 60. This is generativity. Developmental task is generativity versus stagnation. It's a wonderful time. It's a time that you're old enough to realize you're not in your youth, but you're also young enough to appreciate where you're at. So again, Alfred Williams with a brother's voice, increasing the depth. Peace.